This is the Only in Louisiana podcast with Michelle Southern.
Legendary blues artist Buddy Guy is one of the performers coming up this weekend at the 2022 New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. And Buddy Guy was born July 30th, 1936 in Lettsworth, Louisiana. He even worked at LSU Facility Services Department before leaving to pursue a music career. He got on a train in 1975 in New Orleans and traveled to Chicago to play the blues. And the way that all began is quite a story, and we're going to hear it from Buddy Guy himself. But first, I wanted to really get a feel for how the folks of Point Capee Parish feel about, living in the place where Buddy Guy was born. And, as you will hear throughout this episode, Buddy is a very proud Louisianian. And he even says some pretty amazing things about the highlights of his life and career and how many of those end up right back here in the Bayou State. So what I decided to do is find one of the first, it was a bar room at the time, places that he ever performed. And it was actually in Ennis, Louisiana, which is about 8 miles from Lettsworth. And it is still a venue that is alive to this day. It's called the Rock House, and its current owner is Miss Jeanine Lemoine. Now, Miss Jeanine, I love a good hidden gem, especially in Louisiana, obviously. And you seem to have one of those in the Rock House. And, we'll talk about, the Buddy Guy aspect of it. But tell us a little bit about your event venue there and, how you came to own it today.
Well, it's actually been in my family. My maiden name was Prepara. My grandfather built the Rock House and the old store that was next to the store that we ran in 1944. And he had 4 sons and 5 daughters, 2 of which were in the military. And when they came back home, my dad and my uncle ran the store, and my other uncle, Tony, and his brother Vince ran the Rock House. And there were many, many big card games there that would last like the whole weekend. They'd start on a Friday and wouldn't stop until Sunday. There was actually a baseball team called the Rock House Braves. And behind the Rock House, they had big ball games on Sundays. So it was really rocking back in the day. So later on, after my grandfather died, my dad bought the Rock House from the estate, and he had a guy, Eddie Hartford, ran it for him. It was a black bar room. Then it kind of started going down, and Eddie's health was kind of failing. And my dad passed away, so I was kind of like, gosh, I can't let this place go down. It's got, so many stories behind it. So I decided to make it into an event venue. Back in the day when my uncle ran it, Mr. Buddy Guy he played there, and also Joe Simon as well. Joe Simon was from Simsport, which is only like 10 minutes away, and he used to play there as well.
I know that as a little girl, I saw a quote where you said you used to peek through a hole and watch the ladies of Point Capee dance.
I did. My uncle's office was right, where you could look, into the bar room. And I would leave the store, when I was little, and I'd run over and visit my uncle, and I'd try to look through the door, and he'd say, "Now get away from there." But I would, I'd always manage to I just love watching them dance.
And I'm sure that there were no shortage of events that took place during those weekend-long poker games.
Like I said, there were some really big high-stake games that went on.
I mean, what do you know about Buddy Guy gracing the stage there? I mean, I believe that he credits that from where he got his start.
He was born at Lettsworth, which is probably about 8 miles from here, on the Levee Road. I know I've heard him say that he got the screen off of his front porch door, and that's how he made his first guitar or something, and how he used to catfish over the levee. Just, developed a really great love for music. From what I remember, it seems like my dad said there were several people, maybe in his family, that were, that would play music. My dad knew them, back in the day. Like I said, he never forgot. Yeah, he is such a fine man. I mean, he's just amazing. We had a grocery store that's right next to the Rock House, and for years he would stop in the week before Christmas, and he would sometimes call me in advance and tell me to order hams and turkeys. He'd pass them out. Sometimes he would give out alcohol. He'd say, whoever's in here, get what y'all want to drink. Or he'd say, I want to pay for this lady's groceries. I mean, just, such a generous and kind man. He'd come to the store, and then he'd walk over to the Rock House, and whoever was in there, he'd buy him drinks as well when he'd come for Christmas. When they did the dedication to his sign where his house was, by David Fiducia's house at Lettsworth, he, gave like a brief talk of how he's been all over the world, but that there's no place like home. I tell you, he choked up. I was choked up. It was just beautiful, how he talked about it being all over.
I interviewed him ahead of that, and the same humility that you're talking about was evident. The 2018 Mississippi Blues Trail Marker dedication in Lettsworth in his honor. And did that get stolen? Did I see that somewhere?
Well, it was something. I tell you, I never got the straight story of it. I was so hurt. I was angry. I was hurt. I just can't imagine why somebody would want to do something that ridiculous. But, I mean, people do crazy things. I know they found it. I don't know exactly, somebody just took it and what they did. But I understand they found it.
Yeah.
And there is one back by the tracks right up here at Lettsworth. There's one there, and then there's a marker by David Fiducia's house, and then there was a sign, Buddy Guy Way, for the naming the street, Buddy Guy Way. Just a wonderful man. And his brother, Mr. Sam, just the nicest man. Sometimes he called me twice a week, hey, baby, how you doing? Just real, just nice people. And we talk a few minutes, and then we hang up. But his brother's just as sweet.
Well, what does it mean to you and Ennis and Point Capee Parish that somebody as world-renowned, legendary as Buddy Guy started there at the Rock House and is from that area?
Baby, I'm not. It overwhelms me. I tell you, just again because of his humility, how he never forgot his home people. It really chokes me up. I get really emotional. And the thought of him coming back and playing at the Rock House, I mean, it was supposed to be May 9th, but they did have a problem, I think, with Jazz Fest and getting the gear. But they did tell me he wants to come back and play. So I'm just, like I said, it overwhelms me. I really get emotional with it.
That would be something if he came back and played the Rock House right now, wouldn't it?
Oh, my God. I just, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I know he will. I know he said he wanted to. And I'm just waiting patiently and just can't wait. And like I said, just his brother had given me his number to call him. He said, he's going to come do it, baby. You need to just give him a call. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to call Buddy Guy? Really? I mean, I want to bother this man, Well, he's like, no, baby, you got to call him. So I called, and I was so nervous. And he answered, and I'm telling you, after the first few words, we probably talked 30, 40 minutes, just about life, basically. He's so wise, wonderful man.
So tell us about the Rock House right now. I know that it was quite a big decision for you to keep it running and turning it into an event venue. Tell us about it today.
Yes, it was. I sold the grocery store that was my family business. Probably it's 3 years ago. Again, that's what made it more meaningful to me. I said, I can't let this place go. This is my roots. I sold my business, but I have to do something. So I prayed about it a lot, and I'm like asking my dad, you got to lead me right. Just, help me here. And I just woke up one morning and I'm like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I did. And just when I finished it, COVID hit.
Right.
And I was like kind of doubting my decision. Okay, what did I do? But it was really strange because every time I would like pray or worry or whatever, I would find pennies. And I just felt they were from my dad. And my sons as well. I have 3 sons, and the same thing with them. They find pennies. And we kind of made it like an inside joke. Hey, Papa's sending pennies, or yeah, this is the right decision, or whatever. So every penny that I found during that time is actually on top the bar under epoxy, because I just really felt that was my dad telling me, yes, this is the right thing to do. Because it was really, I'd find them in strange places. I mean, places that I had just swept and cleaned and mopped, or I would be, oh my goodness, I have a problem with a carpenter. And I'm like, oh God, am I doing the right thing? I'm tired. And I walk outside and there in the parking lot would be a penny. It was just the strangest thing. So, I could definitely believe that was a sign, for me to do it.
I have a good, wise friend who calls those God winks.
Yes. And I know, some people tell me they get feathers or different things, but with Dad it's pennies. And, it's really strange. My youngest son, he's a travel nurse, and he was always the doubting Thomas, I called him. But y'all so crazy. I can't believe y'all believe that. So he told me one night, he said, Mama, he called me, he said, I'm a believer. I said, what do you mean? He said, I put Pawpaw to the test. I said, Pawpaw, if it's really you, I want to find a bright, shiny penny heads up. Well, he went to work. I think he was in Pittsburgh at the time, and they sent him to a different part of the facility than he had been working. And he ended up going in this patient's room. The patient asked him to get something out the bathroom. He said, Mom, there on the lavatory was a bright, shiny penny heads up. He said, I was astounded. He said, I really got emotional. He said, it was like, okay, Papa, I believe it now. I believe it's you. But yeah, it's just strange.
Well, I understand when it comes to, putting it together and turning it into an event venue, you kept a lot of the old history true to it. Tell us about the inside.
Everything that I used to refurbish the Rock House was basically, I call my roots. Some of it came, my grandmother years ago in the 20s when they lived here, she had an old wash shed that I tore down, and I used that lumber and rusted tin. My dad had a couple of old barns that we tore down. I used that lumber, and some rusted tin from it to refurbish, all of the inside. It's cypress, oak, rusted tin. I found some old signs from my grandpa when he ran the store. My grandfather ran a store at Bachelor in the 20s. I found a sign from that. I found an old gable on my dad's barn that I used to put over the bandstand. I found several old doors and some shutters in my dad's barn, like on the top, just no telling how long they had been there. And I made one wall of just doors, in the Rock House. So like I said, everything in there is basically my roots.
Do you have events booked right now? Where can we find out more if we want to check it out?
I have a Facebook page, and I do have, like I said, COVID had really shut things down, but starting last month through the end of this year and even the beginning of next year, I have bookings. I know May is booked every weekend. June, I think 3 weekends plus one during the week. July, it's starting to really, really pick up. Of course, the more people that come in and see it, they really, really like it and want to rent it for something that they have coming up, whether it be a reunion. I've had wedding receptions, engagement parties, showers. I've had repasts, just different, all kind of different things. I'm actually in the process of building an old rustic chapel right behind the Rock House. And that is with some of the lumber that I have from the old store that we tore down. And I'm going to make, put like a really nice fence in the back where if people want to get married, they can just get married there and then have the reception.
Pretty cool to say I had my wedding reception where Buddy Guy used to play.
Yeah.
and
yes,
Joe Simon.
Definitely. Yes, I'm sure if those walls could talk. I know I did mortar over a few gunshot holes.
Oh.
They did have a couple of, I think they had one person that got killed and maybe one that got shot there. Back in the day, I'd say that was in the 40s.
Miss Jeanine, is there anything else that you would like to add, just on Buddy Guy? And I certainly do hope he gets to come play with you. He can get it together enough of time after Jazz Fest.
I'm thinking he will. I mean, he definitely wants to. I mean, he told me he wanted to come back. And my God, like I said, I get so overwhelmed and excited and like I said, because not just because he's world renowned and who he is, just because of the person that he really is. I would love to just sit down and talk with him, even more about life because he's so wise. And
he loves his Louisiana and he loves his roots and he sings about it.
He does. He does. One of my favorite songs he does is Skin Deep. That song really touches me.
Now it's time to talk to the guy himself. So I pulled this out of some of my old radio archives, and this isn't that old. I actually interviewed Buddy Guy on my radio station, Eagle 98.1, in 2018. He was in town because, as declared officially by the Louisiana legislature, he was getting a highway dedicated to him. It's LA Highway 415, but it's now called Buddy Guy Way. And that happened in December of 2018. And so since he was in town, he was making the interview rounds and even went out to LSU. And I believe they presented him with a purple and gold guitar. And anyway, you can see the Buddy Guy Louisiana historical marker, which me and Miss Jeanine just mentioned had been stolen, but it's now back. It's on LA Highway 1 at the Lettsworth Railroad crossing sign. And it was placed there because Buddy Guy's 2018 album cover photo was taken by that railroad track. So here's how it sounded when I talked to Buddy about this back in December of 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Buddy Guy on the line with us. Buddy, thanks for joining us here on Eagle.
Well, thanks for having me.
So you are in town for a very special reason. You're back home, and a lot of people may not know that you're from right here in good old Louisiana, in Lettsworth to be exact, right?
That's right. Up on a farm up there, and didn't know what running water was until I was about 16, 17 years old.
So what are you in town for? What's taking place on Saturday?
Well, these great people have did a lot of hard work, and finally up there where I was born at naming a part of a little highway for me that passed by the cemetery of my parents, grandparents, all those people, and I'm overjoyed about it because most people get things like that happen after they go on, and when they start mentioning it, I say, well, my mother used to tell me before she passed away, she said, son, if you got flowers for me, give them to me where I can smell them. Now, when I'm gone, because I'm not going to smell them. So I told him, I say, at least give it to me so I can take a peek at it, while I'm there, because I'm 82 now, and I'm overjoyed.
That's awesome. So, yeah, you were born in Lettsworth in Pointe-Coupee Parish. They are designating Lettsworth on Saturday as a historical marker. They're renaming Highway 418 to Buddy Guy Way, and it's going to be presented by the governor and lieutenant governor. So definitely a huge honor indeed. I'm just grinning from ear to ear for you as a Louisiana girl myself. I guess what I want to ask you is how did it all begin from Lettsworth, Louisiana to blues legend?
Well, I was born out there on a farm, what they call a plantation, sharecroppers, and every time I think about it, I used to look up, I dream now and sit down and think, that's a long ways to go. And back then when I taught myself how to play the guitar, it wasn't all, you couldn't see this far away, as to say, maybe one day, man, you could play well enough for somebody to recognize you and come back here to Lettsworth, Louisiana, and a highway be named after you. I still be pinching myself trying to say, is this really true? Because some of the people that saw me mess around trying to learn how to play the guitar, it was just something someone was doing, which a lot of people, young people, play it now. But when I was coming up, I'm 82 years old, and when I was coming up, you didn't find guitar players. It was like a sore thumb. You find one, they had one guy, my dad and them, go get him on Christmas, and I wouldn't see him no more until Christmas. And I just fell in love with it. The kids would be playing with the little homemade, handmade toys. We couldn't afford the toys, so so wasn't no such thing as Toys R Us in places like that, little wagons and stuff. All I wanted to do here is something like a rubber band up to my ears or something like that. And I was fortunate enough to be able to learn how to play like some of the great blues players. I finally got a chance to hear after my dad got twisted around 16 or 17 years old. And I started listening to the Lightning Hopkins, the Arthur Crudup, and which was Elvis Presley's first big hit, some Arthur Crudup stuff. And I just fell in love with it.
Well, how did you make your first guitar?
Well, I used to take my script box when my mama finally got a piece of screen where we could open the windows. Of course, we didn't have no fans and stuff like that. And when you put a little piece of screen over one of those little wooden house windows, you can leave the window open at night. Because in Louisiana, I know they still got a mosquitoes. You could lift you out the room almost. So I would strip all that screen wire that window to try to make a guitar string.
That's incredible. We're chatting with Buddy Guy. He's in town and in home currently because he is being honored on Saturday in Pointe-Coupee Parish in his hometown of Lettsworth, where December 8th is going to be proclaimed Buddy Guy Day. Buddy, how would you say Louisiana has influenced you musically?
Well, as I say, that's why I first heard anything about it, because it was more of a gospel back then than it is a blues. The churches didn't have instruments. It was all voices back in those days. And then up come the Les Paul and Leo Fender, who amplified the guitar where you could hear it much better than I got a chance to. I think T-Bone Walker, then B.B. King came up, and that was the end of saying you can't hear the guitar no more. It had exploded with the electronics, and you could hear it. And another great blues musician was from not too far from where I was born in Marksville, Louisiana, Little Walter, who's taken a harmonica from 5 and 10 cents to the price of a harmonica today. So I'm going to mention that to the governor, too, because his daughter talked to me about the same thing about 3 months ago in Chicago.
Now, you were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2005, and Clapton, Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, they're just a few of the guitar legends who cite you as an influence. Who would you say, who was your influence?
B.B. King, but I heard Lightning Hopkins and Arthur Crudup and Lonnie Johnson before B.B. King, but B.B. started that modern style guitar, what we call bending the strings, and after he came up, my most familiar thing was with him when he made 3 o'clock in the morning. I forget what that was. I hear him on satellite now. I think it was in the 40s. late 40s, and I heard him. I said, well, Jesus Christ, I didn't even think that was a guitar sounding like that. That's just how full electrical it is out in the country, you know. I'm like saying, Jesus Christ, man, I was so full in the country you could milk a cow and I could tell you how much the butter was a pound.
So 7 Grammys later, I mean, I know that your career has certainly been quite a ride, but not necessarily always easy. What would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome 18 albums later?
If I'm pronounced the answer to you right, shyness. I'm still shy because they got so many great musicians throughout the world that I've met, and I've heard them play, and I was trying to learn. I play by ear. I don't read music. And to hear them play and to hear myself play it, I'm saying, how come I got Grammys and Kennedy's Award and I played in the White House and places like that. And I'm wondering why everybody couldn't be the same way, but it doesn't work that way. You know, I don't know if that old saying, I heard the rich get richer, the sick get sicker, but as few of us come through that door, a few of us don't.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be my next question, too. I mean, you were able to play, it seems, you play by ear, you're self-taught. It seems like you can hear any kind of music, you adapt with just about every genre that there is. How do you do that?
Well, you listen to it. You know, I even listen to a voice and go back and try to play what I heard the voices. And I tell a lot of people, a lot of the super rock guys who was more famous than me, looked at me and said, man, the way you talk, you can write songs. Because I put mine like, hey, you know, I was looking for a dime, but I found a quarter.
Well, you played with countless musicians. Is there any in particular show or experience that stands out to you as particularly epic?
Yes, when I was in Chicago, I think I was 22 years old when I looked off the stage. They had saw me play kind of wild, like one of the great guitar players from, I think he's from Mississippi, but he made a name for himself in New Orleans, Guitar Slam. And he was wild walking with 100 feet wide. Now we got wireless chords for your guitar. And I saw him play, and I was doing that in Chicago. And B.B. King had never been to Chicago when I got there in 1957. And I think that was 1958. I was on the stage in a little blues club in Chicago. It was famous, called 708 Club, 708 East 47th Street. And I looked out and I saw B.B. King and I started shaking, so I couldn't hardly play the guitar. And I took a break and I was trying to avoid him, and he said, come here, you know, and I said, okay. And I went over and said, I think you might be the only one can take my place. And I held that, and I got that inside of me compared to what's going to happen to me here with the highway and playing blues in the White House.
Buddy Guy with us on the line. So your 18th album, The Blues is Alive and Well, was released in June. It's available virtually anywhere you download music these days. Can you tell us a little bit about this latest album?
Yeah, well, you know, if you look at even when I was here in Baton Rouge for a few years working at LSU before I went to Chicago, which was September the 25th, 1957, and I was the blues clubs. They come up with the law. They used to didn't have the law with the DUI, the smoking, and so on, and all of that's gone. You know, in Chicago, Washington, California, name all these big cities that have small blues clubs that blues players playing. All of them closed and gone. Now it's Canada. And I just thought to myself, and you don't hardly hear blues on your big FM stations anymore. Before the FM stations came out, the AM station would play you a blues record, a jazz record, and a gospel record. And that was good listening as far as I'm concerned, because you didn't know what what's going to be played next. Now, if you turn on one of the big radio stations, I think you hear the same super record all day long. You never hear Muddy Waters or Little Walter or Howlin' Wolf or B.B. King, and even some of the super blues guitar players, which they call rock. Now, when I left here, there wasn't no such thing as rock music or all the different types of music got now. When I left here 61 years ago, everything was R&B.
So the blues is alive and well. We're going to play a track off of this now. Buddy Guy, thank you very much for joining us today. December 8th going to be proclaimed Buddy Guy Day, and also Highway 418 renamed to Buddy Guy Way, and Lettsworth designated as a historical marker. I think that is incredible. And once again, Buddy, is there anything else that you would like to add? Or you mentioned working at LSU before. Is there anything you'd like to say to your homies here in Southeast Louisiana?
I want to thank the people of Louisiana, the governor, and whoever had a part of making this happen for me before I leave here. And one of the thrills of my life, like I said earlier, I've played 3 or 4 times in the White House, and I've played for dignitaries around the world in different countries, and this is the highlight of my life. This is compared to me sitting in the White House playing and getting the street a highway named after me by the state of Louisiana. I can't give enough thanks to Louisiana for that, because most people who do get a little famous is a shame of where they came from, and that's what people was talking to me about. I said, man, I want to tell the truth. That's why I couldn't be a politician. I said I wanted to come from exactly where I come from, and I went out there and I asked for that. I said, well, you wanted it out there. I'm going to show you where I want this highway name, if they can do that. And they looked at me, and I thought it would be just a little short piece, like a block or so, which they gave me a block in Chicago where my club at. And they said, no, we're going to give you this whole little route by the cemetery where your parents and grandparents people are buried at. And I just couldn't keep from crying behind that.
And one more thing, too. I noticed that you have got quite a tour lined up for 2019.
Oh, I don't want to think about it, because my manager looked at me and asked me, he said, now, you have to stop me because you are being demanded pretty heavy for next year. And I said, well, it's, from that area where with the Muddies, the BBs, the Lightning Hopkins, and Jimmy Reed and all those great blues players. You have another one here named Lightning Slam, which the first time I ever saw electric guitar. He came out there on this highway. They said the name after me and sat down on the porch with electric guitar, and I thought it was a joke. And he moved to Michigan, and he's buried in Dearborn, Michigan now. I went to see his grave not too long ago. And all those great people that I saw, I owe them a lot. And just to say I'm going out there, I wish I could put everybody's name on that highway besides mine.
All right, Buddy Guy. Well, we appreciate you joining us today, and very happy for you. And I hope you have a wonderful time on Saturday.
And thank you very much. And I heard you say you finna play I'm Alive and Well, because a lot of stations don't play that no more. I got children, and most places in Chicago, I don't know if it still go that way here, you have to be 21. My kids didn't know who I was as a musician until they turned 21. When they came in and saw me play, all of them cried. Say, Dad, I didn't know you could do that. And you can take a kid and to the army to kill or be killed, but he come home 20 and still can't drink a beer and listen to a blues or a jazz guy play music. I don't understand that. So maybe one day they'll think about that and say, if I can make a man out of you at 18 enough to fight, I think you man enough to go listen to Buddy Guy and play the guitar.
Well, I was raised right. I knew who Buddy Guy was.
Well, I can't thank you enough. And whenever I'm around with someone, just let me know. I would love to have you come and see me play.
An accomplished Louisiana music legend, humble, wise, and just a really nice guy with a lot of passion for Louisiana. You can stay up to date with the latest episodes of the Only in Louisiana podcast online at onlylouisiana.com, and subscribe however you listen to podcasts simply by searching for Only in Louisiana. Oh, wait. Actually, can I ask you one question? I almost forgot about this.
Sure.
Do you mind saying, give me a radio liner? Hi, this is Buddy Guy, and you're listening to Michelle Southern on Eagle 98.1.
Wow, it's hard for me to remember it like that.
Do you mind if I just say it word by word or line by line?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Buddy Guy.
Okay. Hi, this is Buddy Guy.
And you're listening to Michelle Southern.
And you are listening to Michelle Southern.
On Eagle 98.1.
On Eagle 98.1. Don't move that dial, because she is the one.
Perfect. Thank you for doing that.
All right.
You made my day.
Because only in Louisiana,